So I just did this whole process and the video did not record, which is really a drag because it was like a 30 or so minute demonstration of this, but I think I can still do it now that I've completed a lot of it. It might even be better. I wanted to explain what I did so far. I transferred the drawing onto tracing, then I transferred that onto my shifted still life underpainting, making sure to not line it up. You can see the mirror image, kind of the mimicking the distant ghostly part. I decided what areas I want to keep, what areas I want to leave white, what technique I'm going to do. The first thing I did was treat the negative space, which is the first thing you'll do, right up to the edge. I did a controlled wet and wet blend here. I did some back runs here and a little even wash using only the colors that are in the picture. You don't want to create new ones. There may be ones that you missed in the underpainting that you can incorporate slowly. There's a lot of purples and grays and blues, but I don't want to exaggerate too much. To show you after the negative space, the drip down, I have to hold this vertically. So that's going to have to be a handheld situation. In the interim, I wanted to show you that sometimes people have to treat some of the subjects a little bit in here just because it's so hard to see all this yellow stuff. So I'm using that as a guide, kind of. Not a lot, but just to get ideas for it. And I'm using almost exclusively flat brushes still. I don't want it to be this big outlined situation. You can do at the end some pressure, let go, pressure, let go, pressure, let go, but you have to let go if you want to have lost and found line. You can do that with a real pointy brush, or you can do it with a colored pencil, but I wouldn't do any more than this. I showed on here a minute ago that when you get to the edge, if you do more pressure on your horizon line, that's great. More pressure where it hits and right here, but that's it. More pressure here, here. So it's hit and miss, but you don't want to do all over. Like this is enough. If I did any more with a pencil, it ruins it. And I swear to you what people do, and it's just, it happens. Once the pencil's in your hand, you outline everything, or you treat everything, or you want to make it, you want to see it because you're uncomfortable with the yellow. The point is you should barely see your watercolor. You don't ever want to start out gaudy and, you know, high saturation. You can build to that if it calls for that, which it normally doesn't because the medium is so soft. But what I started doing here was some glazing on dry levels. This is that pear. But I don't want to paint it like fill it in. I want to look at some of the color and use it as a reference, deciding what techniques I'm doing. But I want to make sure this broken white space is still really playing a role without me getting too saturated. There's a highlight here, so I'm going to press and lift. I found myself doing a lot of lift out and wet blending on this one. It just calls for different things. And I don't want to get hung up on the pear, but I do want to get a darker value here just to give it a little volume. And some shapes that are interesting. The other thing I'm trying to do is soften the yellow. Not all over, but just strategically. I'm kind of doing layers of glazing with lift out. Okay. I'm just making sure the thing is still recording because that was a real bummer. Okay, so I've got this dark here. I'm just deciding what's important to render strategically. Okay, I'm going to do just a little information on the side of this knife, only because there's nothing going on at the bottom of the page. Now notice I'm not using pure black. I'm not just dipping into black because it's a knife handle. This knife is blue, this knife is green, this knife is yellow. There's so much red, there's so much going on here that I want to make sure that I don't just do a solid black like I would with, even with acrylic I wouldn't do solid black. But mostly remember it's watercolor, so I'm just doing a little bit side to side just to show this area a little bit of structure. That's good enough. See, instead of painting the whole knife, I do that. Now this is creating tension, so I got to extend this so it's not doing that. This is an area right here that is uncomfortable to me, so I have to resolve it some way. So what I'm going to do is treat this area in between. Even though it's light, I got to do something to break it up. So I'm going to do a little bit of shadow. Now if you're done with drawing and you're not looking anymore, you don't need to even look at the picture if your design is working. It just so happened that I had the picture nearby and it turns out I needed it in certain strategic cases like that, so that I can obscure with that area this strong drip that happened. Let's see here. I'll try to break it up here too. All right, now I'm going to stop looking at this picture because I have enough information and I've created enough angular interest here to balance this. I've got this angular. I'm going to do one more thing just because I feel like it needs something here. I'm just going to do this. You can see how I'm using similar color. Now I don't want to cover that because that's so cool. But this is the thing. These two drips I'm realizing were a problem. They were distracting me because they're so solid, but you see how I've broken them up with some different diagonals. So this, you know, it's going to be different depending on what your picture is, but I used similar hues to do it. I'm just going to put a vertical there just because design-wise, anyway. So that's the main thing here. Now the drip down you'll do before most of this. You'll do drip down after negative space. Negative space is first, right up to the edge, then drip down, then resolve any issues that need to happen inside using anything that calls for to create a solution to anything awkward. And we'll talk about this too. Design-wise, there's always issues with what's working and what's not. I don't want to be... That's better. See, I'm just a perfectionist, and it's hard for me to just leave it when I know I need to do something. But it just relates specifically to my situation here. Alright, anyway, I'll could go on all day long with this stuff. Okay, so this is drip down, and this is what I wanted to show you, because this is the next step. When you drip down, it's usually a warm color. And you want a color that's not too bright, but that is related to this. In this case, you can exaggerate a little bit, but what I'm feeling in here is a brighter orange, because I've used this yellow orange quite a bit. And what I'm going to do now is post this up here and take the camera off and show you what the drip down method is in this case. It's been introduced in other projects already with in between, on top, behind, in front. This is an in front one. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to do more of an orange drip down in the front. So I want to take a big flat brush, and go underneath the area where I want to do a drip down, which is right here. See, I'm going like that, boom. Not all the way around, just underneath the area where I want it to happen. You can see it dripping down. See the water? The goal is to not fill this with water. It's to fill underneath enough and press enough by bending the brush to create that effect. I'm going to go in here now with a bit of a brighter orange, and I can use more pigment because it's got a lot of water. And see how I'm bending the brush and really pushing to create that drip. And you got to do it all along the edge where you did the water. And this is just a gorgeous technique, and it creates actually space. See how beautiful that is? If you don't want it to drip around something below it, for example, let's say I want to drip this knife, but I don't want it to go past an object below the knife, such as, I'm just going to make an object so you can see. Let's say I have this grape or whatever down here. What if I want to do a drip down under the knife, but I don't want it to touch the grape? This is really important. So I would take the water under the grape, and then I would put the water above the grape but not inside it. So you have to push it around, and don't bend on that part, because if you bend, it'll drip right through it. But once you get the water on there with control, it won't go past where you put it. That's what's so cool about watercolor and ink. If you look to the side where it's shiny and lean over and see the paper, you know that wherever the water is where your paint's going to go. It won't go somewhere else. Now that works great flat. When you're vertical, it's a little more challenging because you have to control the amount. Okay, let's hope I did it right. Let's see. Let's say I want to drip under the knife, but I don't want to drip on top of the grape. But I still apply the bend. I can still apply more pigment. I'll try to get you really to see it here. See what it does. Watch it go. I didn't put enough water right there. I'll try it with a different color so you can really see it. And you can use much more pigment for the drip down. So basically, come at it, take a look overnight, what happened, decide what areas you want to feature, what areas you want to mask subtly. You're going to do negative space first, using the hues that are already in there. And then you're going to decide if anything on the inside needs to be handled. I don't want this to look like it's all the way around, so I'm going to put it up here. So negative space after it's transferred, negative space, drip down, techniques you decide to use, internal areas you might want to feature or not, possible lost and found line to mute that yellow, and then drip down, and then all those things. And you can go back and forth and return to things. Once you get into it, like I'm just now feeling like, okay, this is going to be my painting. This is going to be what I do. This is going to be Amy's painting, you know? But it's like it took me a long time to get here. And I'm just now starting to enjoy the picture. So You can see it slowly unfolding. I hope that helps. I really do. And I'll do a couple more things to it and post it. And of course, we'll be talking about all the way. Thanks.